Today, I'm going to tell you about the strangest bank robbery in the world. It happened in Daejeon, South Korea in 2019, about 140 kilometers south of Seoul. The robber was fully prepared to enter the bank. He wasn't nervous or afraid of anything. It was as if he didn't care. Even if he got caught, it seemed like he had planned for that too. He had been watching the bank for a while, studying everything carefully, knowing all the procedures and even the smallest details. He had done his calculations well and knew that the police would need exactly 4 minutes to reach the scene if the alarm went off. Of course, 4 minutes is a very short time and would pose a serious risk to his life. But if everything went according to plan, the reward would be worth the risk, as it would set him up for life. As part of his preparations, he bought a weapon, a knife, from someone he trusted deeply. But according to his plan, he had no intention of using it. Just the threat would be enough. And after months of planning, the day of the operation finally arrived. He walked through the bank's main entrance and the robbery began.
The robber entered the bank and started walking among the customers and employees, his hand firmly holding the knife. There was no room for hesitation or turning back now. He approached the nearest teller window, pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket, handed it to the employee, and said, "No one will get hurt if you do exactly what's written. Just follow the instructions on the paper." The employee read the note and was shocked. She was surprised by the whole situation and how politely he handled it. The young man seemed very respectful and calm, and yet here he was, handing her such a note. She hesitated for a moment, but when she saw the knife, she followed the instructions. Now time started ticking, and the robber waited. It didn't take long before the customers began to notice something strange was going on. They saw the knife and panicked. No one had any idea what this man was planning. Everyone was scared, and with every passing second, the tension grew. Then, as expected, the police arrived at the scene, but it had been less than 4 minutes since the robber entered the bank. That means someone called the police the moment the robber entered the bank and handed the note to the teller. But who was it, and how did the call happen?
Let's just say this was expected from the start. I mean, what can you possibly steal in 4 minutes from a bank? The place was surrounded, and the robber found himself face to face with the police. He didn't have many options left. There was no way to escape. They ordered him to drop the knife and get on the ground. But the closer the police got, the more they noticed that something was off about the whole situation. The man was standing still, holding the knife, completely calm, showing no reaction at all. And then suddenly, he did something strange. He raised the knife, placed it against his stomach, and stabbed himself. But nothing happened to him. The police got closer and discovered that the knife wasn't even real. They rushed him and arrested him. They took him to the police car. Now the bank, the customers, and the employees were safe. The police began questioning the people who were inside the bank, and one thing kept coming up from everyone they interviewed. The robber was incredibly calm. Even the police themselves saw it. From the moment they entered the bank, the young man was calm, making no sudden or aggressive moves. But the strangest thing they heard came from the teller. She told them that she was the one who called the police to report him. Now, you might think that's normal. After all, she was the first person to deal with the robber, so of course she'd be the one to report him. But you'd be wrong, because what she told them made them realize that this wasn't just an ordinary bank robbery, or rather, that it wasn't a bank robbery at all. If you remember, at the beginning of the story, I told you that when the robber entered the bank, he had a clear plan and he wasn't afraid or nervous. He handed the teller a note and told her that no one would get hurt if she followed the instructions exactly. And what did the note say? Call the police. So he wasn't afraid of being caught. In fact, he wanted to be caught. He chose this particular bank because it was the closest branch to a police station. He had calculated that the police would take exactly 4 minutes to arrive. If it had been another branch, the police might have taken longer, and that could have created a situation he wouldn't know know how to handle. Because the truth is, he wasn't really a criminal. All he wanted was to get caught as quickly as possible. Why? Because, as I told you earlier, the reward for him would change his life forever. But what was that reward? That's exactly what the officer sitting with him in the interrogation room was trying to figure out. The officer wanted answers because clearly this wasn't about a bank robbery. So he asked him, "What's the deal with the note? What about the fake knife? What exactly did you do today? And why did you want the police to catch you?" But the robber didn't give him a clear answer. All he said was, "I'm a thief. I tried to rob a bank. I deserve to be in prison. I'm not afraid." Of course, the officer wasn't satisfied with that answer. He pressed him harder, using every tactic he knew, comforting him at times, intimidating him at others, until finally, with his experience, he broke him down and got him to open up. And what the man revealed was unbelievable. He said he had a problem, and the only way to solve it was to rob a bank and get arrested. The robber's name was John. He had recently been fired from his job, and that destroyed him.
He tried to find another job, but he kept getting rejected. Unemployment in South Korea was rising dramatically. But still, the officer, and honestly anyone hearing this story, would wonder, okay, you lost your job and needed money, so you robbed a bank. But why would you want the police to catch you, John? John continued, "I didn't want money. I'm not a criminal. I was raised much better than that, but my options were few. After losing my job, I spent most of my time at home. I'm in my 30s and I still live with my mother. The situation was depressing. On top of that, I suffer from chronic back pain. Don't underestimate it. The pain I live with is unbearable. And worse than unbearable, it's constant. It doesn't stop, day or night. I was unemployed, my financial situation was terrible, and I couldn't afford treatment anymore. With rising unemployment, the pressure on the country's healthcare system increased, and there was no way for me to get approval for my treatment. My insurance completely denied me. The pain I suffer is severe, and I simply couldn't take it anymore. And because I had no other options, and I didn't want my mother to keep watching me suffer in pain every day, there was only one place left where I could find help.
There was only one place where I could get free treatment: the prison clinic. According to South Korean law, the government provides comprehensive health care for all its citizens. But after unemployment rose, discrimination began, and this health care became mostly for people who worked and paid taxes. The rest had to go to private hospitals, which are extremely expensive. That's why for many people who needed medical care, the first place they thought of was prison. Prisons provide excellent health care, and people started doing anything they could just to get in, simply because they couldn't afford treatment outside. And that's exactly what John was thinking: the prison hospital and its clinic.
The place where he would finally find relief from his back pain. Okay, robbery is wrong, and he would go to prison, but like we said at the start, if his plan worked, the reward would be worth it for the rest of his life. The officer was shocked and couldn't believe what he was hearing. Could it really be that he did all of this because of back pain? In every bank robbery we know of, the criminals are trying to escape from the police and avoid prison. But in this robbery, success meant going to prison. But despite all that planning, effort, and courage to execute it, unfortunately, his plan failed. You'd think his plan worked and that they'd convict him and send him to prison quickly, but no. Unfortunately, John wasn't very smart, and his confession to the police led them to charge him only with intimidation. He didn't steal a single penny, didn't hurt anyone, and clearly had no intention of causing harm. The note he handed to the teller from the start made his intentions clear, that his goal wasn't theft. And before long, John found himself back home again, with his mother and with the same unbearable back pain, wondering to himself, where did my plan go wrong? How did I end up back here? Still unemployed, still broke, still in pain.
The date? It was around the end of 2019, and his situation still the same. Just like any of us living this tough life, he said to himself, let me try again. I'll put in the effort, find a job, and start a new chapter in my life. But unfortunately, just as John was trying to rebuild his life, the world welcomed a new year, 2020, the year when not only John, but nearly the entire planet ended up stuck at home. And that was our story for today. And don't any of you think that you're the only one struggling in this life. The truth is, the world we live in only respects the strong. So be strong so you can stand tall against it. To everyone watching me, stay strong.